Now, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show. Incidentally, this edition of the program will be our last for the year, our last before Christmas holiday. So, even at the end of this program, I still wish you Merry Christmas, but please, you're welcome to the program for this Sunday. Now, you've been following our expose on enemy in the house, how NECO officials undermine their own examinations, and the network of fraud that goes from the candidates to the coaching centers to the schools and compromised NECO officials. I promised you last Sunday that we are going to cap up the three-part series this Sunday, but we are going to give it more flesh. And so in our conversation segment this afternoon, I have somebody who's reported in the media, who's covered events, who's administered the media in the FCT, Jacob Eddy. Jacob, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Chief Mwabwezi.
Jacob was the FCT chairperson of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, so I am Jacob's subject. Jacob,
thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief Mwabwezi.
You heard my background. We've been running one particular story. Today will be the third week running. The story of how NECO exams are compromised, bought and sold. But let us begin this conversation with the lamentations of the Minister of Education, Adamu, last week, Friday, in fact, penultimate Friday. He said that products of Nigerian universities cannot even express themselves, that they cannot write. Abdullahi Ganje of FCT, Nigeria Labour Congress, was to be in this conversation with us because there is a labor implication, that's a manpower implication to what the minister said. First, Eddie, how did we find ourselves in this kind of situation?
Well, Chief Mwabwezi, thank you for having me once again. Let me also wish our viewers a Merry Christmas and compliments of the season. The state of education in Nigeria, I think that government should have declared the state of emergency in the education sector in this country. If the Minister of Education can come out to make this kind of proclamation, I call it a proclamation because I assume that he must have done his checks to come up with this position, then that is sad. The first question to ask is, so what is he doing about it? What has he been doing as Minister of Education if he knows so much? That said, the state of education in Nigeria is only getting worse. There's nothing new with the condition we are now. It has been like this for a very long time. And I recall that some years ago, I was shouting that if we are now having private primary schools, we should wait for it. It will get to the secondary school, it will get to the universities. So there is a systemic problem which refuses to fix the problems in the public school. And these problems have degenerated to what it is now. And this is where we are. Yes, the minister is right. You can hardly meet a graduate on the streets of Nigeria now who can successfully write
coherently,
like even talk coherently or write a complete short sentence. And you do not blame them. They need education. But what kind of education does the country have to offer them? Not much. When teaching, the qualification for teaching becomes lack of job, the product can only be imagined. People teach now because they are through with school, and so no job anywhere. Go and look for a teaching appointment. So he or she is not going there to offer anything. He or she is going there to have a space to eke out a living. So you do not expect that that teacher will give anything. And the product of that arrangement is disaster. That is what we are seeing right now. It's not the fault of the student who made himself available in the classroom. It's also not the fault of the teacher who didn't have job. It's the fault of the system who did not provide the enabling environment. And that takes me somewhere. As long as our policy makers can afford to send their children to study abroad, forget about anything good happening in the educational sector of this country. Were it possible, if you rise to certain level in government or in power or in public office or position of authority, your children should school in public schools. They should attend public schools. I can assure you that some of these problems will not get there. And I give you the example of late General Sani Abacha. Due to, not by design anyway, but his children found themselves schooling in University of Abuja and ABU. I can recall, this was around 95, 96. University of Abuja did not go on strike because Abacha's children were there. So if today, even the Minister of Education, if he sees has children of school age and they are schooling in public school, I am assuring you that what you are seeing today will not happen. So there is insincerity on the part of
our policymakers.
There's serious insincerity. So they really don't care about what happens to the common man, what happens in the educational sector. They don't care.
Now, Eddie, you mentioned that teaching has become a job when you don't have a job. Now, there is a problem here. I think it was under the Signaturetv administration, even also, I want to believe, I'm not very sure, under this Buhari administration, that we said first class from our universities, high-performing products of the system should be enabled into the teaching profession. I know that on this program, we congratulated the president when he said that there was going to be a new reward structure for a Nigerian teacher. In other words, there is an effort to attract qualified manpower and remunerate them appropriately into the teaching profession. But there is something else that contradicts this very policy, and that is schools. Let me even go to federal government colleges around the country. They want sparkling results. They want to say they are producing the high flyers. They want more students to choose them as the preferred colleges. So, internally, they undermine the integrity of the examination in order to present to the public that they're a high-performing school. Isn't there a worry there about value and integrity on the part of the schools?
Let me start from the policy of ensuring that people who make first class are employed as teachers. What is the quality of the first class? Some first class degrees are bought. So if you
buy your way through.
If you buy your way through and you're able to have a certificate that bears first class, is your own quality, your production, is it first class? If the answer is no, then everything about the policy and execution is a nullity. Now, if you talk about brandishing high grades, this is prevalent in private schools. They want parents to know that in a particular school, nobody gets less than 6 straight A's, 7 straight A's. In such institutions, some of them, I can tell you that the management of the institution is complicit. The management of the institution is complicit. Now, what happens in private schools is that these results are either bought, or the questions are given to them, or they have what they call magic centers. This is what happens in private schools. So either way, there is a problem. Either way, there is a problem. And that is why I started telling you that the education sector in this country, there should be a state of emergency declared in that sector. If that is not done, we are going to have generation of Nigerians that are ill-educated, and the product can only be disaster. Anything short of disaster is not the product. This is the challenge we're having. So both in the private schools and public schools, there is problem.
The examining institutions, and I want to be a little bit focused on the one on which we did our story, on NACO. But the examining institutions are supposed to be above the rot, because they are assessing institutions to be able to dictate that certain things are going wrong, and therefore sieve, detect, and punish.
Let me not cut you short. Some of the administrators of these governing bodies you are talking about are product of this same system. Some of them wrote WAEC and have the answers given to them. Some of them wrote WAEC and had teachers writing it for them. They don't even read anymore. So as they are growing up, they begin to see the business aspect of
in that assessment institution.
So they tell you, why do you waste your time when you can get these grades? They even approach you and tell you how easily this can be done. So it's a hydra-headed problem. Students now wake up and don't really want to read. What they think of as they get to the senior classes, how easily can they have grades? How easily can they have grades? This is what they tell you. And you do not blame them. I spend all the night reading, and my colleague student maybe was sleeping because he or she had opportunity to have seen the questions and maybe answers. Human nature, everybody likes going through the easy way out. So he or she joins the gang. The principal of the school wants the school to come tops, not because the students really worked hard or the teachers worked hard on these people, but because they can easily buy off the questions. I want to tell you, I know that in the last 6 or 7 years, you don't hear that a particular student was withdrawn or asked to repeat anymore. Once you enter JS1, you are going to JS2 and JS3. It is automatic. So what is the need for the exams? What is the need for the assessment? It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Nobody promotes, nobody repeats a class.
Nobody is demoted. Nobody is sent back to a junior
Those
class.
Days, you will see somebody even in primary school repeating. You see someone in secondary school repeating. But they don't do that anymore. And it is not like the system is not even aware of what is going on. I'm sure the order given to principals to ensure that students don't repeat or are withdrawn must come from the top. Because, for instance, in secondary schools, you have inspectors going around the schools every day or every time. What are they inspecting? What are they inspecting? So it makes the whole thing laughable. So policy is only on paper, not in execution. And we are the worst for it.
I will shortly come to the Ministry of Education, but permit me first for us to look at the family. In the story we've been running, you will see a mother. In fact, she has a baby on her back, which means she's a mother, writing out the answers to the questions for the students to copy. You will hear our negotiation on how much to pay with another mother. I'm worried about that, in the sense that a father, a parent, expects that not just sending his or her ward to school, but that the person is groomed and made useful and can apply himself or herself in society and make a decent living, have a career. And knowing full well that if you buy these things, that child is not prepared to be useful in society. Yet, a mother, yet a parent goes ahead to procure the questions and the answers for his or her own word, isn't that the family destroying its own words?
Well, as sad as it is, this is a reality. I don't know why parents go to that extent. I told my children, I used to tell them, I said, I'm not going to make any call or call anybody to give you admission. Pass your WAEC, I see the result on my phone, then we go to the market and buy your things and you go to the university. Now, I keep preaching this to them. So it's making sense to them that daddy will not lift his finger for you if you don't do what you can do. But when you see parents doing this, but you see, sometimes you also don't blame these parents. Yes, you also don't blame these parents. Everybody seems to be doing it, and nobody is checking it. And they want their children to go to the university. Imagine a situation where a child maybe makes like 300 or 350 in WAEC, and then you need connection for that child to get admission into a federal university in Nigeria. What story will you tell the child? What story will you tell the child? Yes, I agree that no parent should actually internalize these values in their words. But the reality is that this is what is going on. So if you sit back, you are going to have yourself to blame because your child won't progress to the next stage. And those children who are getting admission, getting all the straight A's, is not because they worked harder than your own child. It's because their parents did the same thing for them.
Did the wrong things for them.
Yes, of course, wrong. So there is a problem now of value. There is a problem now of value. But when what the child listens to every day, either on television or radio, wild stories of corruption, how people steal money, how somebody is stealing 12 billion, how the other person is taking 20 billion, 200 billion. Of course, these are human beings and their mind is working. So it begins to make sense to the child that the only way to make
success
is just to make it, the end justifying the means. So yes, there is a challenge with the family, but there is also value orientation, which I believe the government should work at. When the current president was head of state, we had this war against indiscipline. It was everywhere. You didn't need a law enforcement officer to be around you for you to be conscious of the fact that you must stay on the right lane. Yes, it happened in this country. So we have agencies like National Orientation Agency. What are they doing? What are they doing? I'm told that maybe they are not funded. So if they are not funded, what do you want them to do? So government should actually fund such institutions, and then they begin to mount a campaign to internalize these good values, in our children. If they don't do that, they will be doing us an incalculable harm. In the next 10, 15, 20 years, why will I want to go to school when I know that I can either get it the wrong way? There will be no need. But the damage done to the system will be abnormal.
Eddie, I want to lay the foundation for our conversation on the policymakers, and I will zero in shortly on the Ministry of Education. But first, look at the COVID-19 challenge the world has been facing. The United States has not just responded to COVID-19 with money, it has responded to COVID-19 with knowledge. The products of its educational system, its scientists, who are products of the educational system, have risen to the occasion, applied knowledge to give humanity an answer. No matter what you may say, Russia, applying knowledge, products of their school, the educational system, they have provided an answer. China, also relying on its educational system, has provided an answer. Oxford, in collaboration, is providing an answer. That is because education is answering to the needs of society. From point of know-how, knowledge, who is driving our policy to make education answerable to society's challenge? Let me, at this instance, call your attention to what we have done about this story. The moment we finished the investigation and the story was ready, we wrote a letter to the Honorable Minister of Education, Adamu, listing, not in total, some of the things that have happened on in the course of doing this story, and requesting for a conversation with them so that it becomes an opportunity for us to raise policy issues, for us to look at the challenges and what government is doing, and then let the public key into it. But we were roundedly ignored. As a matter of truth, our letter to the minister was minuted to the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary minuted it to the head of procurement. The head of procurement minuted it to the director of press, who has kept it there since then. Now, when we went on a follow back, we play you back the answers we got. As a matter of truth, magic centers are already known in the ministry that there are magic centers.
If he wants minister to see this and act on it, he should give him time. He's not the only one that says that. If he wants to blow it, he can go ahead and blow it. After blowing it, what next? They will not start talking about that.
Who should be driving our response to the situation we have on hand, Eddie?
Well, it's the same thing that I've been talking about. We have a system that is compromised at all levels. Under normal circumstances, an issue like this should be what a minister should rise up to. But if the case is treated with levity, as you have explained, then we're in trouble. Let us call a spade by its name. Then we're in trouble. Because you now don't know who to speak with.
What next to do?
What next to do. So when you are done with your story, and maybe after 2 hours it's on air, then another 48 hours people talk about it, the matter ends there. And we move on. This is the contradiction of our narrative as a nation. And it should not be. Why shouldn't the Minister of Education rise up to this and either use it as an opportunity to formulate policy or even tell Nigerians that this is what government knows about this? I cannot make a case for that. I can't understand in any reasonable sense why that matter you just talked about is treated as they have done. But this is how bad things have become in Nigeria. So you now ask yourself, what is the job of the minister? What is he doing? What is he administering? Why will a case like this be mediated to director of procurement? What is there? Maybe they don't even know the process. I'm sure there must have been director of schools or something like that. So there we are.
You know one thing that they accuse us in the media of throwing up problems so that we can sell our papers and get our programs watched. That the media never really wants to talk about solutions to problems. Incidentally, really, I'm not a policymaker, so I mightn't be able to hazard answers to some of these challenges. But let me tell you something immediately. The moment we broke this story, penultimate Sunday, NECO reached out to us. NECO has established a 6-man committee to get to the bottom of this matter. We have been in touch with the Kaduna State chapter of the Nigerian Parents Teachers Association. We are investigating. We are not. NECO is now investigating how complicit the Kaduna State Minister of Education is in this whole matter. We are giving them the pictures of people with their faces shown dictating questions or answers to questions, sitting by watching the fraud going on, whereas they're supposed to be supervisors. Eddie, can you and I hazard what we can do to begin to address this challenge?
What is NECO talking about? Are they saying they don't know what is going on?
At least we are giving them evidence.
Their officers are around the country to monitor these exams. Yes. Why will a NECO officer, for instance, live in affluence? What is he or she doing? Is NECO an oil company or a bank? This is where we know that they pay some very fat amount of money. So I'm telling you that NECO is aware of what is going on. They cannot feign ignorance of it. They are aware. Don't they get field reports? Their officers are around everywhere, going for, every once in a while you hear that, oh, one NECO officer is going for inspection or invigilation. So they know what is going on. I'm sure that they are also being compromised. When a NECO officer comes to a school, and then the school corners the NECO officer, and so you take XYZ amount of money and just pretend that
look the other way.
Look the other way, that you don't know what is going on. Do you understand my point? So at the end of the day, who do you blame? Well, I'm interested in what will come out of the investigation of NECO, but I can assure you that maybe what they set out to do, perhaps you were just a bit smart, was to see how they could either compromise you or ask you to drop the story. I challenge them. Let them come up with the report of their investigation, then let heads roll in this country. Then we will know that they were actually sincere with the investigation they are talking about. When they came, did they allow you to record? If they didn't allow you, then something is wrong. If they didn't allow you to put your camera and record the process of the discussion you are having, then I am telling you that something is wrong. They didn't come there for any reason that is honorable. They would have allowed you to record. And why is it taking them forever to come up with a report? Even a preliminary report, it is allowed. So if these things are not as I am telling you, then I assure you, sir, something is wrong somewhere.
Now, Eddie, let me just cap up this conversation by drawing our attention to what I had said earlier.
Yes.
And that is that this, as you said, this seems to be a systemic challenge, a systemic rot. NECO, it is there. WAEC is there. JAMB, it is there. Even, what do they call it, post-UME, it is there. Do you think that our security agencies, our undercover agencies, can help this situation? Let me tell you why I'm asking you this question. In my days in the university, there were students who never graduated, but they were security operatives. They will move from one course. After 2 or 3 years, when they're supposed to graduate, they change course. After some time, they change university. But they were constantly making available to the system the goings on for right and timely decisions. Is our security system incapable of helping us in this matter?
I won't give you a monosyllabic answer, but if it is proved that they are incapable, I will not argue with it. Otherwise, if they are still on the campuses, why are we still having this situation and the authorities don't know? Where do they submit their reports to? Who did they submit reports to? Do you understand?
All right, follow.
So it may not be because they are not writing reports. It could be because the people receiving these reports have decided not to do anything with it. Let me say something here. The most loyal agent of state, this is my personal opinion, remains the SSS. Their loyalty to the state you cannot fault. So I am sure that they are doing their jobs. They are writing the reports. But the person or the authority receiving this report may have decided to do something else with it, which has led to where we are. Yes. And without sounding pessimistic, I don't see this coming to an end so soon. I don't see this coming to an end so soon. Some years ago, maybe like 20 years ago, yes, there were reports of exam malpractice, but the perpetrators were not as courageous as we have today. They were not. If you look at exam malpractice, even by my own record, after the Civil War, before the Civil War, we didn't have issues like this. But after the Civil War, the people from Southeast began to see that some of their colleagues outside the Southeast were seeing question papers. And so they made contact with, I'm sure, other parts of Nigeria, and now saw that, oh, this is how we do it. And they also started doing it. Then maybe the people up north also joined.
And bought into it.
Exactly. So now the thing has become...
It's not a national market.
Exactly. And the pain is that the system doesn't see this as a problem. Any nation without education is a nation in disaster. It's as simple as that. We have a minister in this country who boasted that maybe in 2 or 3 years, they will be able to manufacture toothpick in Nigeria. Something is wrong. Go to the Southeast or go to Apo here in Abuja and see what Igbo boys are doing with bare hands, crude implements. I believe that if the government can only aggregate them and harvest all of these interests together, we will be very, very close to manufacturing a vehicle in this country. And they will complement what people like Innocent are doing. What they are doing is to assemble. What we are talking about is, how long will we continue to be a consumer nation? How long will this...
Because our education system cannot service our
Exactly.
needs.
The curriculum is not even designed in such a way that it will lead to production. What the curriculum does for you is to teach you how to continue to follow up what has been done. We have universities. What are they doing? We have laboratories. What are they doing? And year in, year out, government approves budget for some of these things. What happens to the money? So we are in real danger. We are in real danger. So when the minister said that graduates on Nigerian streets cannot write or something, yes, he's right. But knowing that much, what did he do? That is the problem.
That is the problem. That is the problem. In the past 40 minutes or thereabout, I've been conversing with Jacob Eddy. Jacob Eddy, former chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT chapter, a gentleman who's been in media. He loves the media, even though sometimes we disagree over it. He asks me, "You are right, but you have a responsibility." Not to worry, we will not let go. This is a responsibility. We drive till our night, the night of our lives. That's where it's happening. Well, I've already wished you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, but I hope that this conversation today leaves you happy and leaves you merry. Can I be seeing that?
Yeah, sure, of course. By the grace of God, you will see. I wish you well. I wish your crew well. And viewers, I also wish you well. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and compliments of the season.
Thank you very much. My name never changes. It remains Mwagos and Joko. Please enjoy the season, enjoy the cooler weather, but please don't forget that coronavirus is real. Let's meet again in 2021.